And we're live. Jordan, you
We
are on
are
mute, mate.
indeed. We'll take twos. We are indeed live. Saints fans, welcome back to another edition of Saints TV Live. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining us on this lovely Tuesday night off the back of a 12-point win against the Greater Western Sydney Giants. Max, how are you?
Yeah, doing all right. No, it was pretty funny. You left your mic on mute, but no, doing awesome. Had a great Sunday arvo at the Bentley Social, and it was good seeing a few of you there. But always a good weekend after the Saints get up. How about yourself, Jordan?
Yeah, not too bad. During the middle of exam season at the moment, so that combined with the fact that we don't have a guest lined up, unfortunately, for tonight, will mean it's going to be a shorter episode than usual. But other than that, doing all right. Always good to, have a win. How was the Bentley Social on Sunday?
Yeah, it was quite a good atmosphere. Obviously, the second one of the year, and maybe not as many people as there were at the Collingwood game, but definitely a lot louder. Definitely, as you guys might have listened on the podcast, it felt like you're at the game as a spectator. I don't know, Marshy. I'm surprised he didn't lose his voice. Every goal, every time there was an opportunity to sing and chant. He was first one on it. So, yeah, awesome job to Marshy for getting the crowd involved and everyone that rocked up. Hopefully, it was a great atmosphere for everyone.
Yep. How many people do you reckon rocked up on? Obviously, I couldn't make it there as I was interstate, but how many people do you reckon rocked up on Sunday?
I would have said low hundreds, maybe 120 to 150, somewhere around there. But it wasn't. It was good because you could sort of float around, you could talk to everyone. You weren't smushed together like sardines. You're able to get a seat or stand up. It was, perfect amount of people, I reckon, and perfect because there was enough people chatting and talking away and barking at the TV throughout the game. So it was awesome.
Yeah, nice. No, it seems like, good atmosphere, 100 to 150 people, probably more at the Bentley Social than there was actually at the Giant Stadium. So it did
Yep.
seem a bit empty watching it on TV, and I'm sure you noticed as well, looking at, how empty it was, but that's a classic GWS game. For those who haven't already, after this video, make sure you check out Saints TV Weekly and the Saints TV podcast. They are good editions of those as always. Did you want to touch on, Max? I believe you've got some insight on an open training session coming up soon.
Oh, I wouldn't say I have the scoop on this. Nah, just the Saints have posted today that there's going to be an open training this Thursday, 10:30 to 12 p.m. or roughly 12:30 at Linton Street, RSCA Park. So everyone who can get down there, it'll be a good chance to see the boys in action, get a few photos, maybe a few signatures, talk to a few Sainers. So yeah, everyone get down there if you can. It should be another great week.
Yeah, that's a bit unfortunate that it is, during standard office hours, but what can you do? And I'm sure those who are dedicated enough to the St Kilda Football Club will organise some time off with their boss. Let's talk about GWS, or rather how we fared against GWS. What do you reckon we did well in the game?
Oh, I think hitting our targets inside 50. That was a big emphasis, I reckon. Something that we sort of lacked in the first few weeks of the season, especially not having a genuine key forward. Having Max King back really helped out. Also got the likes of Gresh, Higgins, and Butler all involved in the game. We know Kamanides been doing a great job. Membry was giving it a crack when he came back into the side, and Machito Owens as well. But having a genuine full forward play out of the square and trying to create chaos for when the ball does hit the ground gave everyone a bit more of an opportunity to hit the scoreboard in that game.
Yep, and one thing I also noted, I thought our toughness and intent to win the ball was a lot better, certainly than last week, which was a bit of a shambolic in that area. But generally, better than most weeks. I thought we were really tough in and around the ball. It was a really hard fought contest. GWS are not to be underestimated. They're a really tough team, and we had to pull out what we could to get over the line against them. What do you reckon we need to improve on besides, the goal kicking, which is a bit of a concern?
Yeah, I don't know. It was a bit of a weird game just because there was a lot of probably mistakes that wouldn't otherwise be made at other grounds just because the deck, as Joycey said on the podcast, was absolutely atrocious.
Yeah,
Um,
players were slipping everywhere. It was
mm,
quite interesting. But yeah, go on.
yeah, it was. Well, they had to for the first 6 or 7 rounds of the year. They rip up the turf. They have the showgrounds or whatever it is, the Easter playgrounds, or I don't know what Sydney call it, but something like that. Where all the
Easter show, I believe it is.
Easter show. That would be it. Bring all the horses in. They have to rip up the AFL turf, put down different turf, and then right after they rip up the horse turf, and then they put down AFL turf, which was just full of sand. It was very slippery, and whilst it was a pretty dry game, the I don't know ground looked like it'd been rained on for the last 50 days. So yeah. Anyway, that was a little bit annoying because it wasn't meant didn't mean we could stick tackles as well. It mean you could hold your feet. Ground balls were a little bit more shaky. So I don't know if that's a game that you could sort of look at to pinpoint one thing that we can improve on apart from the goal kicking, just because it was pretty unusual circumstances.
Yeah. But on the goal kicking, it was nice to see this guy return and get a couple of goals for himself. Max King, I think he kicked 4 goals, only one that we probably should have kicked, but we'll take that on a return. 4 goals. I think Beth mentioned it earlier. If I can find her comment amongst the couple that are in here, I think I didn't expect him to kick 4. I probably had him down for 1 or 2, but how great was it to have Max back?
Was that the comment you were looking at,
Oh,
Jordan?
sorry, not Beth. That was Lynn. Apologies. Yep, that was it.
But yeah, that was yeah, as we already alluded to, it was yeah, King creating chaos in the forward 50. There's not many defenders that are his size and can really match him in the air. So no, it was awesome to see him back in action, and I thought also the delivery of the ball to him was top tier. We haven't spoken about him yet, but Nasai Wanganeen Malira, career high 29 disposals. He looked like he was everywhere. Cal Wilkie as well off that back flank, really propelling the ball forward. So I think it was really really good work from our defenders, moving the ball up off our back 50 into our forward 50, with a few link players here and there. So yeah, I think that all comes from our defensive work. What do you think, Jordan?
I do agree, although I think Zach raises a good point in saying that Howard needs to work on his defensive skills. I think it's a bit unfair to single out Dougal, but I do think that over the past couple of weeks we've seen a bit of a trend, and Cal Wilkie, as great as he is probably a little bit, a little bit what's the word I'm looking for? He's been caught doing it a couple of times. Probably selfish defending and trying to get the spoil, get those intercept marks. Probably more than team defending in just trying to do the team thing, defend in numbers. So I think that's probably something that we can work on. Is now that comes to mind is probably team defending. But I do think our ball movement from the defensive 50 from Wangan Malera and Brad Hill and Jack Sinclair when he was there. And we'll get to Jack Sinclair in a minute because he had a ripper game. But yeah, I thought our transition was a lot better than what we had against Adelaide.
Yeah, sorry, Jordan. Just on that, the Dougal Howard comment. Look, I think Dougal Howard's best season was his first one in 2020, where he was pretty much playing centre half back, fullback. He wasn't just limited to just fullback, and that's because you had Jay Carlisle on the side. I think it really helps Dougal Howard when he's able to bounce off another genuine key defender. I think that's someone we look at in the off season to really help unlock Dougal Howard's full potential. By no means is he having a bad season or anything like that. I think he's actually played rather good, and hasn't deserved any of the criticism, or not deserved nearly the amount of criticism that he's been getting. But yeah, I think looking into a genuine fullback just to support Dougal Howard, doesn't need to be an A grade or anything like that. Just someone that can hold their own in the best 22 would really really unlock that defense. But as that boy said on the podcast, when you're the number one ranked defense in terms of points scored against, you wouldn't really want to be changing too much.
Yep. No, I think it's a shame that Zane Cordy isn't about 5-10 centimeters taller, because he would have been, like you said, really unlock that potential for Dougal to roam around and play his best footy. Do you think we look at someone like Tom DeCarlo? I know it's very early. You mentioned looking for a key defender in the off season. Do you think someone like Uh, is it Tom De Koning or Sam De Koning? That's
Yeah,
the Carlton.
yeah.
Sam, did
So
you say? Oh,
Sam's
Tom.
yeah, sorry, Sam's the one at Geelong. Tom's the one at Carlton.
Oh, okay,
Um,
apologies.
yeah, he played at Williamstown on the weekends. So yeah, no, I'm not. I'm. Everyone's very high on Tom De Koning, but I don't think he's as good as everyone says he is. But for the right price, you definitely bring someone like that into the squad. He's what 23, 22 years old, key key position player. If you can get him for the right price, then absolutely do it. But I don't think he'd be losing an arm and a leg for him. I don't think he's worth as much as everyone believes he is.
Yeah, well, it's definitely an interesting conversation to have, and the off season is still a while away. We've got plenty of footy ahead of us, but let us know, Saners, whether you think you see Tom De Koning, whether he's a good fit for the side, whether he's worth the money. Let us know what you think down in the comments. Um, Best on ground, I think, by the length of Flemington straight was Mr. Sinclair. Saner of
Yeah,
the round. It was just an absolutely brilliant performance, putting him in the guts.
yeah, you're right. He had 37 touches, 2 goals, just everywhere on the ground. Back to his best. He was less of a midfielder, more of the genuine halfback, which is sort of where I like seeing him more. I think it's at times great that he goes to those CBAs in the middle of the ground, but he is best as a halfback or back flanker. So no, it was absolutely great to see him back to his very, very best. And definitely, you'd almost put him as a lock right now for all Australian halfback.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that he needs to be moved to halfback. I did see a couple of comments from others. I can't remember who they were. But there's certainly one on the live today. But after Jake's review, in saying that maybe you should move Sinclair to the guts full time, and bring in someone like a Tom Highmore, or move someone, give someone else a chance coming off halfback. What would your thoughts on that be?
I liked Jack Sinclair as a genuine back flanker purely because he provides that line breaking ability. He can defend one on one immensely well. And he's just at home back there. There's no reason to put a good player into the guts, with the exception of maybe Jordan Dawson. He's probably the only one, or and Rory Laird, two Crows players that have sort of made that transition. But I think when Sinclair goes into the guts, it's really just to provide a little bit more burst. It's not for a full time thing. Because if you do look at his midfield craft, it's not as great as everyone thinks it is. He gets forward of stoppage a little bit too much. He tries to get that release handball instead of going in for that hard ball himself. Maybe that's his role and he's been instructed to do that. But I'd rather him play behind the ball, really try and break lines. Yeah, and keep him away from a permanent midfielder role. I think others can do that role a bit better than potentially he can. But yeah, at times during a game, definitely a great option to have.
Yeah, I think you're right there in putting him, for a 5-10 minute burst. We clearly needed him against GWS to give us a bit of oomph in winning those centre clearances and bursting out of the midfield like he did. Simon's left a comment about moving Filippo to the back line. I'd like to get your thoughts on that, Max. What do you see for Filippo's future position?
No, I'm not a fan of putting Filippo on to a back flank. I think it works for wingmen like we did with Nasai Wanganeen-Malira, and he's absolutely blossomed. He's got the size, he's got the height, and he's got the aerial ability to take an intercept mark here or there. Philippou has all those traits as well. Granted, he does it. He needs to be doing it in the forward half of the ground. We don't really want to be drafting a top 10 pick or another top 10 pick to send him to halfback. He's right now playing probably the hardest position at half forward flank, and with a bit more time, a bit more experience, he'll slightly transition into the midfield, and hopefully he's that Bontempelli-esque type player, big body midfielder that can get in and under, and also at times move forward and take a mark or two in the forward 50.
Yeah, I think Mr. DJ Ruboy, and we say this every week, he's got the best name of anyone in the comments. Summarizes your points really well, Max. We do need a powerful, I wouldn't say Jason Horn-Francis type, although he is having a really good season, and credit to him. Yeah, I think like a Marcus Bontempelli or a Patrick Cripps, a really big-bodied midfielder. I think eventually Mateus to move him into the midfield. is probably the way to go. But we saw with Marcus and Mitch Owens, you've got to, well, not Mitch Owens, we saw with Marcus Windhager that you've got to earn your spot in the midfield. And, it's not, Ross isn't guaranteeing anyone a place in the team, let alone a place in a certain position. So we'll see. It remains to be seen whether Filippo goes into the midfield. But I do agree with you and Mr. DJ Rude Boy that he one day could, and hopefully he does become the big bodied midfielder.
Sorry, Jordan. Just you did mention a player there that. There's been a comment here from Beth. Sorry, I'm just trying to read it before I throw it up on screen to make sure it's the same thing I'm going to talk about. I think this is pretty much what I want to say. Machito Owens, right? I think absolutely what Beth is saying. He's a better option than Sinks in the midfield. And for the second centre bounce of the game, right after GWS kicked their goal, Mitch went straight into the midfield, and then he went into the ruck. So he played three positions in the first 5 minutes of the game. And before his sickening injury, which thank God he's only just got the concussion from, no vertebrae or anything like that. I think Machito Owens could also be that big body midfielder that we rotate through at times.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to have like a pinch hitter in the midfield. I agree with that there. Not sure if I 100% agree that he would have been the better option than Sinclair, but each to their own, and certainly not a bad option to have either Jack Sinclair or Mitch Owens. It's a good problem to have. That is, guys brought up an interesting point about Marcus, and now I've seen a lot of comments about people, being disappointed with Windhager not being in the best 20, not being named in the 22. I want Saints fans to think back to rounds 1 to 4 when we're all talking about selection integrity and how great it is that no one's guaranteed a spot. And yes, we would like to see Marcus in the best 22, and he's probably, in fact, he's almost definitely a player that we will use going forward. He's a star of the future. He's an integral part of our side moving forward. But I think it's really important, that we, as long as there's no one struggling big time, that he really earns his place in the team. Maintaining that selection integrity is really, really important, and the value of that cannot be understated at all. And I think what Ross Lyon has done in making people earn their spot in the team is really, really is significant to the culture at Moorabbin. We don't want a situation where guys just, are given their spot in the team. So I think we need to, remember what we were saying in rounds 1 to 4 and not, go back on our word and, have all those problems that we have with Brett Ratton not dropping a couple of people that he should have, not naming names. But yeah, I think selection integrity is really important. Windhager's not in the team for a reason. I really back Ross Lyon and what he's trying to do with St Kilda. There's a reason he's not the best 22, whether that's a confidence issue, whether he's not doing something that Ross has asked him to. I'm sure there's a reason behind it. We've got to trust Ross. Max, I'd like to get your thoughts on Marcus not being in the 22.
Yeah, I think we got to remember that he's still only a second-year player, and there's still a lot more experienced guys in that midfield for, as you said, for maybe the better or the worse that they're playing right now. I think what I don't want to see, though, is Marcus come into the side but then play as a forward flanker or play as a small forward or play as a wingman. I want him to come into the side and him be in that centre bounce, getting, 60 to 70% CBAs during the game, because whilst Mitch is so great, Marcus is so great at VFL level, that's because he's playing full-time midfield and he's really the leader of that group. If you bring him into the AFL side right now, he's maybe that small forward or half forward player that plays up the ground, and he's not quite in the same role, so it's hard for him to get consistency. If he needs to come back into the side, and when he does come back into the side, I want to see him back in the full-time midfield role. But he'd be playing at Sandy, so then he gets some continuity in his game and understand a bit more what he's doing right and wrong, and learns from that way. He doesn't play half forward or on the wing or half back or wherever his position is.
Yeah, I think it's a good point you make about Marcus needing consistency. Beth's mentioned he was ripping it up in pre-season. I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier, Beth, about, he must have done something to, not to tick off Ross Lyon per se, but something he's not, performing well in a certain area, just like us, at work, I'm sure we've all got performance. What's the word I'm looking for? Performance, criteria that we have to meet, certain expectations we have to meet, and Marcus is. I'm sure he might not be living up to some of the expectations set of him. So I think it's really important we maintain selection integrity and not throw out everything we were saying was good about Ross Lyon out the window. In round 10, just 6 rounds later. So, coaches' votes. I think it goes without saying that Jack Sinclair probably. I haven't seen them, but we'll bring him up in a second. Probably got the lion's share of the votes, and what do you know it? He did get 10. I think it's probably fair that Rowan Marshall got 4 each. What do you reckon, Max?
Yeah, they were the two standout players on the ground, and yeah, I think Josh Kelly played all right. He kicked a goal early on, but no, it was really all same as that game. Just looking through, Brent Daniels, Tom Green, yeah, they probably deserved it. Max King, 1 vote. I think Max King could have got a couple more votes. Have 4 goals, and his first 2 touches of the game were score involvement. So anyway, but that looks pretty right to me. Jack Sinclair was definitely number 1 on the field, and closely followed by Rowan Marshall.
Yeah, I'd say probably take. Did Brent Daniels have 2 goals? I'm not sure, but if he didn't, then take off a vote off Brett Daniels and probably give it to Maxi. We'll take a look at the key stats you mentioned earlier. Nazai Wanganeen-Malira, career high 29 disposals, excuse me. Jack Steele, 11 tackles, another game for the Man of Steel. Looks like, as was mentioned on the podcast, looks like he's really finding form after the collarbone injury. Jack Sinclair, 733 metres gained. Boy, that's a lot. And Mason Wood, 10 score involvements, which was a game high as well. So some good stats all round. And good to see some contributors, not just in the midfield as well, but Wanganeen-Malira off half-back had a good game. Max, I know you follow this Facebook page, and it's a fantastic Facebook page that I wanted to give a shout-out to very quickly. Do you want to explain a bit about it?
Oh,
If there's much to explain.
have you sprung this on me?
Oh,
Or is
maybe
this
I have, but it was included in our run sheet. It's
Oh,
the
no,
Jack,
I do. Yeah, I see what you're saying. The Jack
it's on
Sinclair.
screen now, yeah.
Yeah, lovely little little page. It's a good laugh. All things Jack Sinclair and his calves. So yeah, definitely give that a look after you're done watching our live, because it's a very amusing page.
Yeah, definitely give it a follow. We don't run it per se. I wish I had the genius idea too. That'd be great. Yeah, good laugh, and yeah, definitely a good page, as well as the sad saner who don't follow on Facebook and Instagram. Definitely get around him as well. Have you got some injury news for us, Max?
Yeah, well, just as we touched on before, Owens has avoided hospitalisation. He's just a concussion. Looked as crook as anything when he came back onto the field. Oh, sorry, back onto the bench. But yeah, absolutely chuffed that there is no more damage than just a concussion. And I believe the club said they're going to take the 3 weeks. So Hawthorn game, the bye, and then whoever we come out of the bye against, he's going to miss.
I believe it's Sydney at the SCG.
Yeah, so not a bad one to miss at all. Yeah, should be good 3 weeks recovery. It's 21 days for your brain to fully heal after a concussion. So if you give him that extra week, no need to rush him back as well. We want to have all our players fit and ready for the second half of the year, because after the bye, this is where we lost it last season. So, yeah, awesome to see that it was just a concussion for Owens. Tim Membry as well, a test to come back into the side this week. Probably a good time for him to as well come back into the side. We'll get to see him with King and Caminiti as the 3-pronged forwards, and yeah, should be a good to see the different dynamic. We're throwing different magnets around the board now. We're giving teams a different look, so each week we're looking a little bit different as we did the previous week. So yeah, should be good.
Yep, and I think the remaining players, will just chuck it on screen now. I believe the remaining players aren't expected to be back until after the bye. I think it's disappointing. What's Zach Jones has suffered another setback. With his quad. And it's Dan McKenzie. I don't believe we've seen him in a game since Brisbane, the first Brisbane game last year.
Yeah,
Is that right? It's been a long time since we've seen D Mac, and it'd be really good for him to get back on the park. Um, but yeah, and hopefully we can see Jack Hayes is a name that not many people have been talking about, but hopefully we get to see him back at some point.
yeah. Jack Hayes has been one of my favourite players on the team. He only played the 5 games or 4.5 games last year, so I think people forget very quickly that we've got Jack Hayes on our list and what an asset he is. A little bit of an undersized ruckman, standing at 192 to 4 centimeters, I believe. But great pinch hitting, gives a bit of relief for Ryan Marshall because right now, apart from Machida Owens, which I'm curious to see what we do against Hawthorn, with who's going to pinch hit in the ruck, whether it's someone like Mason Wood or if it's you bring in Caminiti to do that role. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with no Mitch pinch hitting in the ruck this week and then the week after the bye.
Yeah, Mr. DJ Rudeboy's made another good point. D-Mac could perhaps transplant off his housemate's calves. Yeah, that would be a good idea. For those who don't know, Dan McKenzie is currently house sharing with Jack Sinclair. Yeah, could be a good idea. We've seen the calves appreciation page just before. Perhaps Sinclair could lend him a calf or two. I'm sure he's got some extra muscle to spare down there, so that could help out. Beth, to answer your question, I believe all clubs are mandated to seek a neurologist's opinion after the game. During the game, I'm not sure if it is a neurologist who makes the assessment down in the club rooms. Obviously, you've got the physio that comes onto the field to make the assessment immediately. But yeah, it's a good question, and it's definitely something that I'll look into and hopefully get an answer for you next week. Kyle, I love your enthusiasm up the something saners. Something we didn't mention before in regards to the coaches' votes was just to highlight how well we've been going this season. We've got 2 players in the top 10 of the coaches' votes overall this season. Zach Butters and Nick Dacos have been having tremendous seasons, but also noting number 39 votes to Jack Sinclair and 37 to Callum Wilkie, and in some really good company there, Max.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Zach Butters, going from top to bottom, Zach Butters has really stepped up after he's been moved into a permanent midfield role. And Nick Dacos has been having an incredible second year off of the half-back line, moving more into that midfield role as well. If I'm not mistaken, Jack Sinclair is the only genuine halfback on that list, and Callum Wilkie's the third defender on that list. So, awesome to see that not just midfielders are getting the love, but backman as well. I guess you can count Nick Dacos maybe as a halfback, but halfback, but he has been moving more into the midfield, playing a bit more 50-50 for Collingwood.
I'd say Darcy Moore's probably spent a fair amount of time at centre halfback. He certainly did against Carlton, no?
Yeah, well, that's why I said the 3: Jack Sinclair, Darcy Moore, and Cal Wilkie. Sorry, that's
why. Anyway. Oh, yeah, sorry. Well, I thought you were including Nick Dacos in there. Apologies. Yeah, right. Well, moving on from the coaches' votes, and just want to take another shout out at another internet site that I visit quite frequently is called Squiggle. That would be SQUIGGLE. It's a site that allows you to not just predict the ladder also, but gives good analysis of good statistical analysis of past games and upcoming games, and predicting where teams will finish and that kind of thing. One thing I do like is their function of who won the round. As you can see, that's from last round. So apparently we were it takes into account how other teams performed relative to ourselves, and who we've gained ground against. What our likely percentage is, how many wins are we likely to finish with. And I definitely use it religiously. It's definitely worth checking out. I cannot recommend it highly enough. Some of the maths is a little bit complicated, but they definitely dumb it down so regular people like you and I can have a squiz at it. It's a good site to use for stat nerds like myself. But definitely something I use and have stopped using. I used to look at the bookies the bookies odds pre-games to see which team is more likely to win. But now I just use Squiggle because I think we should probably stay away from all that gambling kind of thing. But yeah, definitely recommend checking it out. Max, have you come across Squiggle before by any chance?
Yes, I have, not as intensely as what you do. I do the ladder prediction every once in a while, but I didn't realize they do all this analysis every round and per game, and that's really good insight, Jordan. I'll be getting on Squiggle. I'm a bit of a stat nerd like yourself, so yeah, I love looking at all the intricacies of Saints footy and what's been going around on the AFL. So when people can dumb it down for you and make it easy to read and all that, why not give it a look?
Yep. I also use it for my tips as well because in past years I've been pretty shite at tipping. So that's definitely helped me this year, and it's also helped. I've stopped backing the underdogs and started just backing the favourites pretty much every game. So that's it's amazing what happens when you back the favourites every game. The ladder predictor as well that they've got a ton of, you can see up the top, the middle top. They use a bunch of different sites, not just themselves, but also a bunch of other AFL analytical sites. And all the models combined, they reckon we'll finish sixth after round 10. Obviously, none of them know exactly what's going to happen, but I think that gives a pretty good indicator of where we're sitting at the moment. I believe we're fifth on the current ladder, Max. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, right behind Melbourne on the current ladder, and if I can pull it up just right now, uh, Collingwood, Brisbane, Port Adelaide, Melbourne, St Kilda, Dogs, Cats, Crows to round out the eight. Um, and then on the same points but less percentage is Essendon and Fremantle, who have made a bit of return in the last 3 weeks. So uh, all those teams that are 7 through to 10 are sitting on 20 points.
Yeah, so it's good to see the Squiggle and the other models do have faith that we won't fall off after the bye. Whether that actually does happen remains to be seen. But yeah, we'll make sure to check it out, Saners. We might jump into a bit of a Hawthorn preview, should we, Max?
Yep, I like where this is going. We'll get it kicked off with Hawthorn coming off their 100-point win against God knows what waffle side was put together on the weekend. I'm so sick of hearing all this stuff for what's it called, for the West Coast Eagles. It's all self inflicted. It's all, everything that's happened is on them. It's not on any other team or on the AFL, like their fans and some of their media personnel are trying to spin it. Nonetheless, Hawthorn are in pretty decent form, whilst that maybe decent form doesn't reflect on ladder position, but they've been in a lot of close games this year. Yes, they're only sitting on 76 or whatever percent, but they're a lot better than probably what that suggests. Just on the weekend, we've highlighted that Mitch Lewis has kicked 6 goals. James Siciley's coming off a massive performance in 30 disposals and 11 marks. He's their general down back. He's a bit like their Sinclair for us, except he's more of an intercept player and Sinclair's more of a rebounder. And then Jai Newcomb has been having a very underrated season. He just keeps ticking along. He's a tackling machine. Had 9 tackles, 5 marks, and 24 disposals on the weekend. Yeah, two-way midfielder, and he's an absolute machine.
Yep. I've got a question for you, Max. You mentioned that Hawthorn are playing better than their ladder position and percentage suggests. No side is to be taken lightly, except maybe the West Coast Eagles at the moment. That being said, we are in a position that we should be able to handle Hawthorn. Do you think we should rest our players, rest a couple of guys? Obviously Mitch Owens is going to miss. Maybe rest Tim Membry as well, give him an extra week off to make sure he's 100% healthy. We know how important injuries to the head are. But do you think we should rest a few players or give it a red hot crack and try and get a percentage booster?
No, definitely play for a percentage booster. You've got the bye to rest people, and then if we're winning by a lot at 3/4 time, or hopefully we're winning by a lot at 3/4 time or into the 4th quarter, then you drag someone like a Steele, like a Rowan Marshall, maybe even a Wilkie, just give them the last quarter off. So no, I don't think there's any need to rest anyone, especially when we've got a lot of guys coming back from injury. the more games we can get into them, so they find their feet a bit before they start playing a bit harder teams, then that will only benefit us more going into the season.
Yep, fair enough. Yeah, like we said, Sanders, it'll be a bit of a shorter episode tonight, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, just before we wrap up, as we always do, Max, what's one word for how you're feeling for Saturday?
I want you to sit with that, just Jordan.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit with that, and I think we're going to move on to the one word for how you're feeling for Saturday.
Great call, Mark. Sorry, Jordan. I'll be back to you in a sec. I'm pulling up my word thingo for that Beth has sent in. You give us your word, and then I've got my word thing in front of me. Hold on.
Got your word wheel.
I've got my word wheel in front of me. Give me a second.
Yeah, my word's content. Not terribly looking forward to a Hawthorn game. Like I said, should be able to take care of them relatively comfortably. Yeah, I'd go with content. Max, have you got a word? And Saners has always let us know what your word is.
I am feeling eager. That's my word of the day.
What is it?
Eager. I'm
Eager.
Hold on, where are we? Hopefully you guys can see that nice and clear. It's that one. Oh, just there. Eager. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm very eager for Saturday. I want to see a big Saints win. I want to see us find a bit of continuity in the team before we go into the bye, and then come out the bye and we start smashing it. Going into the second half of the season where we fell a little bit to bits last year.
Yep. And how about a scoreline prediction for us?
Ooh, sorry. I thought we were going to go through some of the comments first. Guy feels ready. Simon's clinical. Sanders keeps sending in your comments. Oh, eager is not a dirty word. Frothing, confident. All right, that's how you guys are feeling for Saturday's contest. 140, I believe it is, at the MCG. Am I wrong?
Nah, Marvel.
Marvel. Okay, get down to Marvel then. We play Hawks again, MCG later on in the year. Scoreline prediction. I'd love to say Saints by 8. Saints by 80. If we're serious about playing finals and we're serious about what is it? I don't know, just beating the bad teams or beating the worst teams. I reckon Saints by 80 would kick 120 to Hawks 40. Is that what that would be?
Something like that, I believe.
Like that. Hopefully a 60 plus point win though. Going closer to 80 than to 60.
Yep, for me, I'd say probably, take the foot off the gas a little bit. Make sure we don't get injured. It'd be nice to go a week without some injuries. So I'll say St Kilda 94 to Hawthorn 67. A nice 27-point win. Sean Cook reckons 90 to 35. Naga 128 to 58. Christopher Saints by 53. Mr. DJ Rude Boy, Saints 123, Hawks 69. Jesse Brown, 66 points, mark my word. Guy, 97.55. Mark reckons 120-point win. And Mark Haynes reckons, he's looking for revenge for 1971. So I reckon that's probably a bit long to hold a grudge for, but I'm sure we can, move past the grand final loss. Leon, 120 to 35, and Beth reckons a 28-point win. So just 1 point more than I predicted. Max, who's the player that's going to have a big game?
Sorry, and just to get Mark's thoughts, he says, haircut, please.
Okay, thank you. I believe you two have made your point now.
I think
I'll take it on board.
He wants a haircut before next week's show. So there you go.
Well, maybe Mark can join the fan camps and we'll see what he looks like one time. All right. Player to have a big game.
Player to have a big game. I'd love to say I'm thinking Rowan Marshall. Obviously Ned Reeves has gone out, so you've got Lloyd Meek coming in as the main ruckman for Hawthorn. Granted, let's pick someone a little bit more obscure. to have a bigger game against Hawthorn, give them a bit of a confidence booster. I'm thinking someone like Liam Stocker to go absolutely bunter, have maybe 30 touches and I don't know, 10 marks or something like that. I think that'd be awesome to see Liam Stocker have an absolutely massive one.
Yep, for me, I reckon Brad Hill will have a big game. Typically Wade plays well against his old side in Hawthorn. Had a big game last year against them. Got back into some form. I think it was 2021 maybe that he was out of form and used that game to propel himself better. Jesse reckons Gresham will have a big game.
Yep.
Mark Haynes reckons Naz will do it on last week. A bunch of inside 50s. Mr. DJ Rude Boy, Crouch get back to 35 plus. Yeah, Crouch would be good to see him, rack up some more disposals. Guy, King. Marcus also reckons Crouch to return to form. And Christopher reckons he go for 4. That'd be good to see Jack get some, build on his consistent season that he's been having.
Yep. And then Mark also reckons King for 7 goals. I don't know if you put that.
Yep, that'd also be nice to get King 7 goals.
Yep. And then Mark also thinks you should get a haircut.
Okay, all right. Let's move on from that one. I think we're overdoing it now, maybe a bit. We might just leave it there, Sainers.
We'll wrap it up there, Sainers. Just a reminder, check out the podcast, Jake's other weekly videos if you haven't already. Get down to the game 140 at Marvel, I believe, this Saturday. And if you can, get down to the social club. Believe Jakey and Joycey will be interviewing one of the injured players or a few of the players that aren't listed for the game on Saturday. I think that's all we've got tonight.
Yep, as always, thank you guys for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night and have a great week.
Love your work, Max. Yeah.
All right.
Go the Sainers.
See you guys next time.